Okay, yeah, y'all may be seated. Okay, y'all may be seated. Okay. Let the record reflect that the court is back in session and cause number 329142. The case is styled the state of Texas versus Rachel Marie Primo. Let the record also reflect that Ms. Primo is present with her attorney, Mr. Wright Kimler, and the state is present with its assistant district attorney, Mr. Tommy Coleman. Let the record also reflect that the jury is now present in the courtroom. Now, at this time, state, are you ready?
Yes, Your Honor, state ready to proceed.
Defense, are you ready?
Ready.
Okay, so at this time, Mr. Coleman, will you please read the information? Ms. Primo, would you please stand?
In the name and by the authority of the state of Texas comes now the undersigned assistant criminal district attorney of Jefferson County, Texas, on behalf of the state of Texas and present in and to the county court at law, Jefferson County, Texas, that in Jefferson County, Texas, Rachel Marie Primo, here as now defendant, before on or about October 31st of 2019, did any there intentionally and knowingly possess a controlled substance listed in penalty 3 of the Texas Controlled Substance Act, namely clonazepam, by aggregate weight, including any adulterants and dilutants in an amount of less than 28 grams against the peace and dignity of the state.
Ms. Primo, how do you plead? Okay, you may be seated. Mr. Coleman, like to make an opening statement?
Briefly, Your Honor.
You may proceed.
May it please the court,
Yes, you may proceed.
Chairman, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, good afternoon. This case is a short case. It will not be lengthy at all. This case is not a complicated case. This case is about credibility. This case is about common sense. You will hear evidence in this case in form of testimony from Sergeant Chase Romero of the New England Police Department that on October the 31st of 2019, he was on routine patrol at about 10:46 p.m. when he saw a vehicle committed traffic offense, making a turn without using the turn signal. Sergeant Romero testified that he effected the traffic stop up on this vehicle and made contact with the driver of the vehicle, who was the sole occupant of the vehicle. Sergeant Romero will testify that he detected an odor of marijuana. Based on that odor of marijuana and the defendant offering to retrieve the marijuana, he searched the vehicle and he did in fact find marijuana, both raw marijuana and what he characterized as burnt marijuana. He also testified that in close proximity where the marijuana was found, which by the way was found in the first. Also in the first, he found several pills. Those pills would preliminarily be identified by him as being the clonazepam pills, which require a prescription and are contained in the Controlled Substance Act. He will testify that the defendant would be eventually charged with the offense of possession of that controlled substance. You'll also hear that he completed a evidence submission form and a lab submission form to get those pills sent out to the lab to be tested. And you'll hear from one of the forensic analysts from the Jefferson County Crime Lab, who will testify that she did in fact analyze those pills and she did in fact confirm the suspicions of Sergeant Romero that in fact he was correct in that those were the clonazepam pills. It was analyzed and they determined to be clonazepam pills. You'll also see a body cam video, and you'll see on that video, and you'll also hear from Sergeant Romero that the defendant denies that those pills were hers. Notwithstanding the fact that we'll hear testimony that they were found in her car, in her purse, next to some marijuana that she was attempting to retrieve, to produce to Sergeant Romero. So you'll hear all these things. Again, I think under the circumstances, it'll come down to your common sense and credibility. It'll come down to whether or not, you find this defendant credible when she says, that, she did not have care, custody, and control over, those, clonazepam pills. It'll come down to your common sense as to whether or not you believe that someone who's driving their own vehicle with their own purse that has, contains illegal marijuana in there, whether or not it's, makes common sense that they would not also, have care, custody, and control over the other illegal substance that's found in that, purse. And in this case, that's clonazepam. I'll ask you at the end of this case, it'll be a short case. I anticipate us being done this afternoon. I'll ask you at the end of this case to return the just verdict in this case. I'll ask you to return the only verdict that I believe the evidence demands, and that's a verdict of guilty. Find, Rachel, Primo guilty of this offense of possessing that controlled substance.
Okay, Mr. Kimberly, you'd like to make your opening statement now?
Just briefly, one thing I want to learn, ladies and gentlemen, again, is that the law doesn't come from either Mr. Coleman or myself. Judge Holmes is going to instruct you to indicate what the law is, the law that binds you and controls in this case. And you'll actually have a written document, all the charges of court that will contain all of the law necessary for you to make your decision. But from time to time, either myself and Mr. Coleman may state something about the law or state what the law is that doesn't control. And I anticipate that when Judge Holmes gives you that instruction at the end of the trial, he's going to tell you it's not just care, custody, or control, possession, but it has to be intentionally done. You can be in possession of something, exercise care, custody, and control over it, and not know that you did. It's not sufficient that the state prove to you beyond a reasonable doubt. Possession, it has to be knowing possession. You have to know that you possess something. So I just ask you to keep that in mind when listening to the testimony. And then when you get the chance to go back and deliberate, the judge instruction on that law as well. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Kimberly. Mr. Coleman, you'd like to call your first witness?
Yes, Your Honor. State calls, Sergeant Chase Romero.
Sergeant Romero, would you please come forward?
Sure.
Please come forward. And Mr. Romero, would you please raise your right hand? Sergeant Romero, do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth to help you God?
Yes, sir.
Sergeant Romero, you may take your seat and adjust the mic. Mr. Coleman?
Thank you, Your Honor.
Okay.
Good afternoon, Sergeant Romero. Good. You please state your full name for the record.
Chase Matthew, Romero.
And how are you employed?
I'm employed by the Newton Police Department as a patrol sergeant.
And how long have you been with Newton PD?
7 years and 8 months.
And your training and background that led you to that position, what does it include?
Includes the basic police officer academy, as well as various in-service classes.
And your duties on patrol, what do they include?
Being a patrol supervisor, I oversee a patrol shift. I also carry out the normal functions of patrol officer, charge of traffic enforcement, affecting the rest of penal code violators.
And were you doing so back on October the 31st, 2019?
Yes, sir.
Were you in uniform?
Yes, sir.
Were you in a marked patrol uniform?
Yes, sir.
And at around 10:46 p.m., approximately what location, where were you located?
I was patrolling the 2500 block of Avenue F in Newton, Jefferson County, Texas.
I think you beat me to it, but Needler in Texas,
Yes, sir.
in that particular block of Avenue F, you said?
Yes, sir.
That's in Jefferson County.
Yes, sir.
And what, if anything, caught your attention?
I observed a tan color Toyota Sienna traveling eastbound in front of my patrol unit.
What about that Sienna drew your attention?
Observed the vehicle approach the intersection of Avenue F and South 25th Street. Went to the intersection and stopped at the stop sign. and then turn northbound on the South 25th Street without using its turn signal.
Is that a violation of the Texas Transportation Code?
Yes, sir.
What, if anything, did you do next?
I conducted a traffic stop on the vehicle and approximately the 500 block of South 25th Street, for that traffic violation.
Activated your overhead lights,
Yes, sir.
indicated you wanted this vehicle to pull over. Did they in fact pull over?
Yes, sir. They pulled over to the, southbound lane of travel.
And did you make contact with the driver of that vehicle?
Yes, sir.
And was that, driver the only occupant in that vehicle?
Yes, sir.
At some point during your interaction with this, individual, did you identify that individual?
Yes, sir.
What method did you use to, identify that individual?
The individual provided their name and date of birth.
And using that name and date of birth, who did you identify, them to be?
Rachel Marie Freeman.
And did you see the individual here in the courtroom today that you identified back on October 31st, 2019 as Rachel Freeman?
Yes, sir.
And could you please point to her and identify her by the article of clothing that she's wearing?
Yes, sir. The woman wearing the black blazer.
Your Honor, I ask that the record reflect that the witness has identified the defendant
The record will so reflect.
and did you inform Ms. Primo the reason for the stop?
Yes, sir.
Did you detect anything or make any observations when you made contact with her?
While I was speaking with her, I detected the odor of what I believe to be marijuana being from the interior of the vehicle.
And you believe that to be true based on what?
My experience in training law enforcement.
Is it your experience that marijuana has both a distinct smell and appearance?
Yes, sir.
And what did you do next?
Upon detecting the odor of marijuana, I requested an additional unit check by with me. That way I could conduct a search of the vehicle.
And why would you need another unit or another officer to do that?
Anytime you're dealing with a search of the vehicle, your attention is focused fully on conducting the search. You're not able to safely divide your attention among searching the vehicle and the individual on the traffic stop.
So it's essentially an officer safety.
Yes, sir.
While you were waiting for another officer to arrive on scene, did you inform the defendant of what you smelled?
Yes, sir.
And did she offer to retrieve anything?
Offered to retriever. After I advised that I'd be conducting a probable cause search, she offered to retrieve marijuana in the vehicle.
And did you let her do that at that point?
No, sir.
Again, why would
Officer
you?
safety issue, reaching around the vehicle, which is preferred not to do that.
Sure. Did the backup op eventually arrive?
Yes, sir.
What was the name of the officer that?
Officer Cody Perkins with the New York Police Department.
Now detective, right?
Yes, sir.
So Detective Perkins arrives on scene, and did you conduct your search at that point?
Yes, sir.
Did you locate? What, did you find any marijuana?
Yes, sir.
Where did you find the marijuana?
Inside of a black and colored purse on the right front passenger seat, that was located on the right front passenger seat.
Did you find any, did you find any four yellow pills?
Yes, sir.
Where were these pills located?
They were located in a small blue plastic container that was inside of that black and colored purse.
Did you find that, the defendant's identification?
Yes, sir.
Was it identification in the vehicle as well?
Yes, sir.
Was it in the purse or in the vehicle? If you recall.
I don't recall.
I mean, it has been, this happened back in 2019, correct?
Yes, sir.
Have you made few or many traffic stops since 2019?
Oh, man.
Do you remember each and every detail about each and every stop?
No, sir.
Nevertheless, did you prepare a report about the events that happened that day with the defendant, Ms. Primo?
Yes, sir.
And did you prepare that report at or near the time when those events were fresh on your mind?
Yes, sir.
And have you reviewed that report prior to testifying here today?
Yes, sir.
In fact, when was the last time you looked at that?
Earlier today.
And look looking at that report, does it help to refresh your recollection of other things that happened?
Yes, sir.
But nevertheless, you can't remember each and every detail.
Yes, sir.
So you found marijuana, you found the 4 yellow tablets. Were there anything distinctive about those tablets?
They were scored, which means marked, with lettering and numbers. The lettering was all caps TEVA, and the numbers were 832.
Did you use that information to make any inquiry about those pills?
Yes, sir.
What did you do?
I used a web-based browser pill identifier. You enter the color of the pills, the shape of the pills, and the scoring, and it'll tell you what the pills are.
Or at least what you
At least what you
suspected.
suspect to be. Yes, sir.
And in this case, what did that web-based search indicate that these pills might be?
0.5. Sorry, I can't. That's where we're correctly. Clonazepam.
Clonazepam, is that your understanding that it is a controlled substance?
Yes, sir.
Contained in penalty group 3 of the Texas Controlled Substance Act? If you,
I don't recall it immediately offhand, but it is a controlled substance. Yes, sir.
did the defendant tell you, did she claim ownership of the clonazepam?
No, sir.
In fact, what did she say about who that might belong?
Friend.
Did she deny that that was her vehicle that she was driving?
I don't recall asking her that question.
Did she deny that that was her purse that these items were found?
I don't recall asking that question.
What do you typically do with evidence that you retrieve from an incident like this?
Typically, we return to the police department as soon as practical. Sometimes we have to answer various calls for service during those times if the evidence is still in our vehicle, it's secured in a locked box. But upon returning to the police department, we begin processing it, including weighing, photographing, placing the evidence into envelopes, sealing it, marking the seals with our signatures, the date, and the case number, with drug evidence submitted into a drug evidence locker at the police department.
And is there any paperwork that goes along with that?
Evidence submittal form, yes, sir.
On that evidence submittal form, does it typically, what types of information is on it?
Excuse me. Information contains suspect information, dates, time of incident, case number. Then there's portions of it labeled for each individual piece of evidence to describe what it is, including a narrative section at the bottom to put what evidence item, where it was submitted, and what is to happen with the evidence.
And more specifically, does that evidence form that you complete contain the defendant's name?
Yes, sir.
Does it contain the date of incident?
Yes, sir.
Does it contain the agency case number?
Yes, sir.
What is the agency case number in this case?
19-01672, and then N as a numeral.
You remember that off the top of your head?
I tried.
Did you bring your report with you?
Yes, sir.
No need to verify that?
No, sir.
And name, date of the incident, agency case number, and also is it signed?
Yes, sir.
Do you
With,
sign it?
with your signature, date and time that was submitted with your badge number as well.
And does it end? What do you do with that form in conjunction with the evidence? What do you?
One form is placed with the evidence submittal in on the outside. There's evidence submittal form where you put a yellow copy. The original copy goes with your report.
And what do you do with it at that point?
Once everything is done, are you talking about the report or
The evidence.
after evidence is submitted? I no longer have any possession of it.
Well, where does it go?
It was
Is
not-
secured? We can't talk over each other. We got the court is struggling to take a but I guess what I'm getting at is You don't walk around with the evidence, you don't keep it with you, do you? What do you
No,
do with it?
absolutely not.
What do you do with it?
It's locked into it until an evidence custodian, can take possession of it.
And then, what happens after that, specifically with drug evidence, where does it ultimately end up?
The Jefferson County Crime Lab.
The process that you just testified to, the completion of the form, placing the defendant's name, the incident number, agency number, and that kind of thing, did you follow that process in this case?
Yes, sir.
The pills that you testified to, were they using this process sent to the Jefferson County Crime Lab to be analyzed?
Yes, sir.
How do they get there?
It's brought there by the evidence custodian.
And, does the evidence custodian utilize a lab submission form?
Yes, sir.
So we've got the evidence form, we've got the lab submission form, and they're two separate forms, correct?
Yes, sir.
Who completes the lab submission form?
I'm sorry.
The lab
Who completes
submission.
it? The lab submission
Yeah,
form?
lab submission.
I did in this case.
And not unlike the evidence form, that lab submission form contains some specific information as well.
Yes, sir.
For instance, another information is on that lab submission.
Defendant's name, date of birth, the charge, description of the seized evidence or evidence to be submitted, including the suspected, drug.
And also the agency case number.
Yes, sir.
The evidence in this case, was it analyzed utilizing that process by the Jefferson County Crime Lab?
Yes, sir.
And was a report, no, I'm not asking you to testify to what the report said, but I'm asking you, was a report generated?
Yes, sir.
And, was that report generated back in November of 2020? If you recall,
I don't recall.
was it generated sometime after you made the arrest?
Yes, sir.
And when the items were analyzed and the report was created by the Jefferson County Crime Lab, was the items or evidence returned to the needle of people?
Yes, sir.
Now, at some point, in fact, right before this trial began, did it become necessary to retest that evidence?
Yes, sir.
And the evidence went back to the Jefferson County Crime Lab?
Yes, sir.
And why is that?
I can't testify to that. That wasn't my decision, or nor did I transport the evidence.
Sure. But nevertheless, the evidence was retested, correct?
Yes, sir.
And did that evidence make its way to the courtroom today?
Yes, sir.
How did it get here?
It was brought here by a forensic technician with the Jefferson County Crime Lab.
And when it was delivered here, who signed for it?
I did.
Do you have that with you today?
Yes, sir.
May I approach the witness? Sir?
Yes, you may.
I don't remember, I'm showing you what has been marked as State's Exhibit number 2. What, do you recognize that?
Yes, sir.
What do you recognize that to be?
In evidence, envelope.
Is it what is your understanding of what that evidence envelope contains?
It's gonna be the bills in question in this case.
On the outside of this envelope, does it contain the information that you testified to, that was submitted on the evidence form and on the lab submission form,
Yes, sir.
including the name of the defendant, agency case number, date of the incident? Yes, sir. Was a report made after this was analyzed for the second time?
Yes, sir.
I'd like to talk briefly about your understanding of how charges are referred to in the district attorney's office.
Yes, sir.
When you do your investigation, you complete that evidence form, you complete that lab submission form. Now, how do charges or a case, how does it get referred to the district, Jefferson County?
The case is, investigated by, one of the department's detectives.
And what is the detective, what do they do in order to prepare that case to be referred to the DA's office?
They, typically, it includes, running, criminal histories attaching to the report, includes, lab results in the case of narcotics to determine the exact content of the suspected, seized drug. Once everything is prepared, they'll download video, to DVDs be provided to, the district attorney's office. Everything's put together in a packet and then brought to the district attorney's office by the detective.
Does that include, I think you may have mentioned it, videos and photos?
Yes, sir.
Do you play a role, in that process? The process of gathering the
No,
videos
sir.
and the lab report, putting all that stuff together to take to the DA's office?
No, sir.
That's the detective.
Yes, sir.
And who did that in this case?
Would have been Detective, Bradbury,
Is detective, what's his full name?
Detective Chad Bradbury.
Is Chad Bradbury, current, is he still with the New England PD?
No, sir.
But nevertheless, he was tasked with, putting all this stuff together.
Yes, sir.
Was everything put together and referred to the DA's office?
To my knowledge, yes, sir.
And that includes videos?
The,
Let me ask it this way.
yeah,
Was there an issue, either on the end of the police department or on the end of the district attorney's office, as it relates to the videos and photos being, becoming a part of the district attorney's file?
I would say probably both in this incident. The videos after reviewing the case file were said not to have been, available, due to retention error with the watch guard system. However, approximately a year ago, Detective Perkins was able to locate the videos to this and was, said to bring it up here and provide it to the district attorney's office. Upon receiving notice of this trial, we were advised that there was no video, with the district attorney's office. We were able to locate, or say Detective Perkins was able to locate the videos, as far as our body camera, my and Detective Perkins' body camera for this incident,
And when were those videos located?
this morning.
And was, as far as you know, was the defense counsel made immediately aware of it?
To my knowledge, yes, sir.
Immediately made aware of the discovery of the existence of these videos?
Yes, sir. As soon as, we arrived, if I recall, you, attempted to contact, the defendant's counsel, to advise them, that we had obtained video in this incident.
Just to be clear, your role, you're not tasked with gathering up all these videos and turning them over to the DA's office and make sure they get to the DA's office. That was
Yes, sir.
your role. All right. And I want to be clear that these videos, as far as you understand, was there some attempt to hide or withhold?
No,
these
sir.
videos?
Actually, as soon as we discovered, that there was the district attorney's office didn't have video, we made sure, or we attempted to locate it and wanted to provide it as soon as possible.
Now, when you say videos, you're talking about, are you equipped with what's called body worn camera?
Yes, sir. I'm wearing it currently.
And is that the video that you're referring to
Yes,
that's being
sir.
produced today?
Yes, sir.
Not only your video, but also the body worn camera of Detective Perkins.
Yes, sir.
Now, would that be the only type of or form of video that would be recorded during an incident?
Also, there's what's called mobile video recording. It's the in-car camera.
Was that able to be located in this?
No, sir. It appeared to have been purged by the system due to retention. times.
Does that happen automatically?
Yes, sir.
Again, to be clear, did you play a role in that at all?
No, sir.
Was it, to your knowledge, was there an attempt to hide or hold that body cam video in this case?
No, sir.
Oh, excuse me, the patrol car video.
No, sir.
May I approach the witness, Judge?
Yes, you may.
Showing you what's been marked as State's Exhibit number 1. Do you recognize this item?
Yes, sir.
What do you recognize?
It's a DVD, prepared by Detective Perkins containing our, his and mine body worn camera in this incident.
And it has the body worn camera that you just testified about.
Yes, sir.
Was it made on a device that was capable of making an accurate recording your body cam?
Yes, sir.
Body worn camera? The individual who is tasked with operating the body worn camera yourself, are you capable of properly operating that camera?
Yes, sir.
Did you review this video?
Yes, sir.
When was the last time you reviewed it?
Today.
Did it appear to be unaltered in the same condition as it was and accurately reflect the events as they took place back on October 31st, 2019?
Yes, sir.
Your Honor, at this time, the state would offer State's Exhibit 1 for purpose of the record of itself for his inspection.
No, I just reheard as I made previously to this. First of all, facts not predicated on reasonable suspicion of traffic stop. Secondly, reject any statements made by the defendant that occurred during her custody and pre-Miranda, and also reject any references to extraneous offenses.
Okay, objection is overruled. You may proceed, Mr. Coleman.
Your Honor, consistent with the court's previous ruling, I'd like to publish State's Exhibit number.
Okay, you may.
And to be clear, the extraneous offense objection irrelevant, and then any probative values that would have prejudicial nature, and then evidence if the court finds they are relevant.
Okay, objection over.
Page 308, Lincoln Junior page 308, 20.
I'm trying to remember whose voice are we listening to?
That's my voice.
I'm sorry to know the English department. The reason why you're shocked, if you did use that, whenever you turn on this bad one.
I'm looking for my little dog.
That we're looking at, sorry,
No, good opinion.
Oh, okay. And you can use driver's license and print.
I'm too sure if it's even still. Still good.
Portland. Can you confirm insurance, please? And have insurance. Okay. That's good. So you have a ride on you. You live here somewhere local? In Port Acres? Oh, okay. What's your last name? Can you spell for me, please? EAUX. What's your first name? And what's your middle name? M.A. And what's your date of birth? That's all it is? How much do you want? 120. What color eyes are you? Brown.
Sorry, remember, why are you asking those questions?
To obtain identifying information.
Again, because she indicated she didn't have a driver's license.
Correct.
At 49 Avenue. 1. And what's your phone number?
497485062.
And do you know your deal number?
No.
Do you have a Texas deal?
Yes.
Is that Texas?
Again.
14, got one. Last name Primo, first name Rachel, 53075. And so where are you staying at currently?
It's 409, no,
You said you're staying with a friend?
yes, my brother-in-law actually.
What street is that on?
The dog just got lost, and
Yeah.
I thought I saw something right over there. He's a little white dog. You can have his shirt on.
Is that where?
Judge, consistent with the court's previous rule, that I'm muting the sound at this point.
Okay.
You good with that deal number, please?
Sergeant Romero, again, Judge, consistent with the court's rule, that I'm muting the sound here.
Okay.
Sergeant Romero, at this point, you informed the defendant, of something. What did you tell them?
That I can detect the odor of marijuana emitting from the vehicle.
Okay.
Okay.
Your Honor, consistent with the court's ruling and our recent discovery, our recent discussion at the bench, I prefer to just play the video without sound on this one.
Okay. Any objection?
Without objection.
Okay, no objection, you may proceed.
What's happening right now, Sergeant Romeo?
I'm requesting that the defendant exit the vehicle.
Prior to her exiting the vehicle, did she offer to do anything?
I offered to, no, sorry, provide me with, marijuana.
Was this in the, that just appeared to be,
Detective Perkins.
it appears that you retrieved an item from the passenger side. So that vehicle, passenger seat, what was that?
The black purse.
And is that what's being searched now?
Yes, sir.
There's some containers there that were found inside that purse.
Yes, sir.
Inside one of those containers, what was found?
The 4 yellow, pills in question today.
And is it your testimony also that inside that purse, there was marijuana was found?
Yes, sir.
So remember, did you ultimately make your way around to the back of that, the SUV or the passenger of that vehicle?
Yes, sir.
You searched the back of the vehicle?
Yes, sir.
Did you find any contraband in the back of that vehicle?
No, sir.
What's happening here now?
Just located the defendant's driver's license
And where was that? Could you tell?
in that like bag.
Okay. So her driver's license was in the bag with marijuana and with the clonazepam.
Yes, sir.
Are you putting everything back in the bag now?
Yes, sir.
At this time, that's all the state wishes to publish. As it relates to this. Okay, everyone, did you,
Yes,
I think we're talking.
you gonna disconnect it? Well, you can leave it connected for him. Okay, that's fine, that's fine, that's fine.
We talked about the report, you prepared a report in this case, correct?
Yes, sir.
Prepared it near the time when everything that happened was still fresh in your mind.
Yes, sir.
Based on, your investigation in this case, the search of the vehicle, and your training experience, did you form an opinion as to whether or not an offense or offenses had been committed by this defendant, Ms. Primo?
Yes, sir.
What opinion is that?
That Ms. Primo was in possession of controlled substance.
And that controlled substance being,
The clonazepam.
now is, possession of marijuana also illegal in the state of Texas?
Yes, sir.
Did you arrest her for the possession of marijuana?
No, sir.
Why was that?
If officer discretion on arrest, but also due to the current House bill on marijuana.
So you exercised some discretion, you didn't arrest her on the marijuana. Okay. Nevertheless, charges will refer to the DA's office as it relates to possession of a controlled substance.
Yes, sir.
And in this case, a controlled substance being clonazepam.
Yes, sir.
Your Honor, I will pass the witness at this time.
What's the House bill on marijuana?
Sorry, I'm sorry.
The House bill on marijuana,
I misspoke. The House bill on hemp,
on what?
on the hemp.
Yeah, what is that?
I honestly couldn't tell you what.
Well, if they offer discretion, then you referenced it. Does it pertain to probable cause?
Sorry, speaking as pertaining to arrest for marijuana.
Would it pertain to probable cause to search as well, hemp versus marijuana, whether you spell hemp or marijuana? Hemp's legal, right?
Yes, sir.
Marijuana is not.
No, sir.
What's the difference?
Marijuana contains a certain amount of THC.
A percentage, right? That's the difference between something being legal and illegal, right? So the substance that's legal smells like a substance that's illegal, is that right? That,
I can't testify that. I don't know, sir.
you don't know?
No, sir.
So the substance that you're referencing is marijuana could actually be hemp. Right? The substance, the green leafy substance that was seized out of that vehicle, right? She wasn't arrested or charged with that,
No,
correct?
sir. No, sir.
So we don't know whether that was illegal or not.
I believe it to be marijuana.
Okay, but we don't know that, right?
There's no lab results, no, sir.
So it could have been hemp. Should have been illegal. It could have had the lower amount of THC, right? What you smell.
That is possible.
So it is possible you might not have had probable cause to search the vehicle,
No, sir. I believe I detect the odor of marijuana made for the interior of the vehicle.
but you could be wrong about that. In other words, you just testified to it, hemp, right?
I told.
Judge, I asked that the defense counsel allow the witness to finish his answer before he asked another.
What's the
Okay.
objection?
That he
You see-
allowed this witness to finish his answer before he asked another
Well,
question.
objection's not responsible.
Okay, objection sustained.
It could have been hemp, right?
It's possible.
And it could have been legal, right?
If it wasn't back then, yes, sir.
If it were legal, then there would have been no probable cause to believe there was criminal activity, so you wouldn't have had an exception to the warrant requirement to legally search the vehicle, right?
if it was in fact him, but I believe it to be marijuana.
But we don't know for sure.
Being objection, he is talking over this witness. I have to
Well-
allow the witness to finish his
well-
answer.
hold on. Yeah, well, let's do this here. Mr. Kimler had the witness on cross. At this time, I'm gonna overrule your objection. And Mr. Kimler, you may go forward.
All right, let's move on. Well, just the legality of that search depends on that being an odor of an illegal substance that you detected. Is that right?
Yes,
You
sir.
agree?
Yes, sir.
Correct. And let's be clear, you're out on patrol, routine patrol, sitting there,
Yes, sir.
looking for criminal activity, making sure the streets are safe, right?
Yes, sir.
And you observe a vehicle, correct?
Yes, sir.
Now, is there anything that draws your attention to this vehicle in particular?
It was out in front of my patrol unit.
Just, it wasn't weaving or having any kind of difficulty maintaining a single lane or anything like that?
Not that I recall.
All right. And you see the vehicle fail to signal to turn at the stop sign?
Yes, sir.
And it's not that it didn't signal in a sufficient distance, it just failed to signal at all.
Yes, sir.
What were the traffic conditions like?
No light. Zero, no traffic.
And it's the law that you have to signal, but did you think that it presented any kind of clear or present danger? The failure to signal the lane, the turn at the stop sign for other vehicles?
Being that I was on the only vehicle on the roadway, no, sir, but it is a violation of traffic
Yes.
law.
Yeah, absolutely, right. But it wasn't an action of the driver that presented a particular danger to other vehicles, right? There weren't any other vehicles around.
No,
other
sir.
than-
No, other than mine, no, sir.
Yeah, you're familiar with, DWI laws, right?
Oh, yes, sir.
People driving under the influence of alcohol or controlled substance, correct?
Yes, sir.
Where their mental and physical abilities are impaired,
Yes, sir.
ability to operate a motor vehicle is impaired.
Yes, sir.
To be clear, on this particular occasion, you didn't observe any of those factors in initiating this traffic stop.
The only factor I found peculiar was, when the vehicle turned onto, South 25th Street, turning
Mhm.
northbound, it was traveling northbound in the southbound lane, or traveling when I activated my emergency equipment.
Yeah, that's a normal residential street, right, with two
Yes, sir.
lanes? How wide would you say that street?
2-car lanes.
So it's consistent. I mean, would you agree that it's a narrow street? It's consistent with two vehicles being able to pass each other, but there's no shoulder, improved shoulder or anything like
There's no
that?
improved shoulder, no, sir.
So if the car may have been somewhat into the other lane of traffic?
You can say left or center, yes, sir.
Left. So that's another traffic violation. I suppose, right?
I suppose.
What's the rule on that? What's the law? So was it left
You
hand
must
turn?
drive, there's no rule on wide left-hand turn.
Wide right turn, right?
Correct, yes, sir.
Yeah. So actually, I guess that wouldn't be a violation. Failure to maintain a single lane at that point?
Driving northbound and southbound lanes of travel?
Right. That's not, a failure to maintain a single lane is a violation, right?
Yes, sir.
Was that violation apparent from what you witnessed at the vehicle, operation of the vehicle on this occasion?
Suppose so.
Well, doesn't that have to represent danger, then, right? For it to be failure to maintain a single lane, for that to be a violation.
No.
Okay. In any case, you initiated a stop based upon the observable traffic.
Yes, sir.
Correct? And that didn't have anything to do with any type of difficulty that you perceived with the individual operating the vehicle that would be consistent with the DWI stop?
No, sir.
Right.
No, sir, not the DWI stuff.
Anything, at no point, I mean, you're certified administrator of the field sobriety test, correct?
Yes, sir.
Well, explain the jury what they want.
Objection, relevance, Your Honor, this is not DWI trial.
Objection.
You want me to state the relevance, Your Honor. I think knowledge is going to be an issue of the possession. And of course, if she were under the influence of the drug that she's accused of possessing, that would be relevant to show that she had knowledge of that. So the relevance that she didn't demonstrate any observable mental or physical impairment as the introduction of the drug consistent with what she's being charged with possessed with would be relevant.
Yeah,
Just for lack of knowledge.
I'll concede that there arguably is an issue there as to whether or not she's under the influence of the drug she allegedly possessed. But the administration of field sobriety test I think it's taking us down a trail, a road too far on this.
Objection sustained.
Are there tests available to you to determine if somebody's under the influence of the controlled substance? On a traffic stop?
Yes, sir.
Did you administer those to the defendant?
No, sir.
To your knowledge, she appeared to be free from any type of impairment, mental or physical impairment due to the introduction of a drug, dangerous or controlled
To my
substance.
knowledge, yes, sir.
So she appeared to be coherent, understandable, cognizant of her surroundings, right?
Yes, sir.
Not under the influence of any drug.
Correct.
Otherwise, you would have administered the field sobriety test, right?
In theory, yes, sir.
Searched the vehicle, and you searched a bag or purse, you described,
Yes,
right?
sir.
Did you maintain the purse itself as evidence or not?
No, sir.
Just the contents?
Yes, sir.
Now, was that the first thing that you searched in the vehicle? Or did you look under the seat, your glove compartment, or anything?
No, sir.
First
I believe it was the first thing.
first thing you looked at.
Yes, sir.
Any reason for that?
It was just first thing on the seat.
And again, this probable cause that you indicated, you understand that gives you the right to search any of the contents of the vehicle, not the vehicle itself, but contents like bags, packages, suitcases,
Yes, sir.
parcels, packages, that type of thing. Not just the vehicle itself, is that right?
Correct.
Probable cause extends to items, closed items within the vehicle, correct? So were you able to locate, you located a container within the purse, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
What did that container look like?
The container,
Yes,
it was blue in color plastic.
was it opaque or was it clear?
I don't recall.
Okay, in other words, if I were holding, how big was the container?
I would say probably around probably that wide and then that thick maybe, or maybe a little less.
Does it appear on the video at any point or not?
I believe so.
Like what point of the video? do you think?
I couldn't even tell you.
If I looked at,
Probably shortly after I removed it from the first.
if I looked at the container, would I be able to see through it and to view the contents?
Not clearly.
So opaque.
That's the term you want to use. Yes, sir.
What term would you use?
I just couldn't see clearly into it. I don't know what other. terms to use.
Occluded, not clear? I mean, what do we agree on? Tinted,
I'd say not clear.
not clear.
Yes, sir.
So it would be impossible to view the contents of the container, what if it were closed and one were looking at it from the outside, is that right?
Yes, sir.
So one would not necessarily be aware of the contents when we're holding the container and looking at it.
Correct.
Right? And you open the container
Yes, sir.
as part of the search, right?
Yes, sir.
And that's where the substance that we have here that is pretty much charged with possessing it, right?
Yes, sir.
And she was arrested for that. Did you bring a report with you that you reviewed?
Yes, sir. When you say arrested, were you speaking on that night?
Well, subsequently read at some point.
Okay.
Arrested.
Yes, sir.
Did you bring a report with you?
Yes, sir.
The one you reviewed?
Yes, sir.
Mind if I take a look at it? Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Just briefly on peruse those. Um,
Mr. Kimber,
yes, sir.
you'd like to take a break?
No, sir,
at this-
I'll do that one.
Okay.
Scan. So after you completed your report, it's the report you returned, we turned everything over to Detective Bradbury.
After I completed the report.
Yeah, you completed your part
After,
of it.
evidence was submitted, it was, yeah, the case was turned over to a detective.
Right, I guess the standard procedure, you package up the alleged contraband, narcotics,
Yes, sir.
and put it in the lockbox, and somebody transports it over to the crime lab.
Yes, sir, that is,
And that's what happened here.
yes, sir.
You weren't the transport officer.
No, sir.
Who was that?
Detective Mendoza.
And so you put together a package and you turn that over to the detective, is that right?
Yes, sir.
Before it's submitted to the district attorney's office.
Yes, sir.
The detective has to develop it, put the case together, and it's his job.
Right on the paperwork, yes, sir.
Take some years. How many detectives did you have there in Newton back 3 years ago? Just roughly
Believe,
7 or 8, maybe?
no, four,
4.
Fort Mode.
Bradbury West, who else?
I don't believe West was still there, and Bradbury, Mendoza, Dupuy, and,
Oh,
I'm
that's
sorry.
right. Why did Bradbury leave?
You see, objection, relevance, Jeff.
Objection sustained.
Let me narrow it down if I can, Your Honor, and I'll give Mr. Coleman an opportunity to object again. Is there any untoward reasons why he's doing?
Objection, relevance, Jeff.
It would be Brady.
Objection sustained.
It could be Brady. I guess, is my question.
Objection, I've even court ruled on
Objection sustained. You may,
Can I approach you?
hold on a minute, let me, turn this here.
This
Hold on a minute. Hold on a minute. We got one missing. Let the record reflect that we're back in session. The jury is now present in the courtroom. Mr. Kimler, you have the witness on cross.
Pass case off to Bradbury, that was your completion of your ball.
Yes, sir.
That's it.
Okay. Mr. Coleman?
Thank you, Judge. Just a couple follow-ups. if I may. Dr. Romero, is it your understanding that the odor of marijuana, whether or not, it ultimately turns out to be hemp or actual marijuana, does that give you probable cause to search a vehicle?
Yes, sir.
Once you have probable cause to search a vehicle, does that mean it allow you to search, not only the vehicle, but, containers inside the vehicle?
That would likely contain the substance. Yes, sir.
Yeah, no matter how big or how small,
Yes, sir.
no matter if they're open or if they're closed.
Yes, sir.
And failure to signal a lane change or turn, does the law require that to necessarily put other vehicles in danger?
No, sir.
Just failing the signal in and of itself, is that a violation of law?
Yes, sir.
I'll pass it.
Thanks, Ron.
Okay. Mr. Coleman made his witness to be excused.
Not excused, Judge, but he certainly, I have no further questions for him.
Okay.
I don't object to it being excused.
Okay. Mr. Romero or Sergeant Romero, just have a seat in the hall, hall.
Thank you, Judge.
All right. And Mr.
No, at this time, State Clock Marshall Cox.
Marsha Cox.
Yes.
You get the video? Could you
Shut it down.
yeah, put it back on the monitor like it was?
Yes, sir.
Ms. Cox? You may come forward. Ms. Cox, will you please raise your right hand? Ms. Cox, do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth to help you God? Ms. Cox, you may take a seat. And he will adjust the mic.
No, we're gonna go.
Have a seat, Judge.
Okay, and Ms.
I don't know if that's a witness or not, but when welcome.
She's not a witness. Okay, Mr. Coleman, you may proceed.
Please state your full name for the record,
Marsha Cox.
and I need you to speak up or louder on, make sure.
Yeah, you could adjust the mic.
How are you employed, Ms. Cox?
I'm employed at the Jefferson County Regional Crime Lab,
What's your title, your official title?
forensic scientist,
And how long have you been a forensic scientist for the crime lab?
a little over 4 years.
You know, for your training and background, what does that include?
I received my bachelor's degree in forensic science from the University of Central Florida. I've taken practicals, proficiencies, competency exams in-house in the lab, and I've also did training with the manufacturers of instrumentation companies that we have at the laboratory. And I've also training from senior scientists.
All right, and as part of your duties there at the crime lab, do you take an unknown substance or substances and identify those substance or substances?
Yes, I do.
Specifically with regard to pills, briefly explain to the jury what the standard process involves.
So typically, once we get the evidence into the lab, we will take a description of that piece of evidence. So in the case of the tablet, we will describe the tablet, its color, its shape, its intent. And then we will crush the tablet to make sure that it's homogeneous. And then we will take 2 sample tests for each one.
Homogeneous, help the lay people out in this room, what are you referring to when you say that?
Just meaning that to make sure it's all mixed together and that I'm taking a portion of each part of that tablet.
Please explain to the jurors gas chromatography versus mass spectrometry.
So it's an instrumentation technique that has 2 parts. So the gas chromatography part and then the mass spectrometry part is a separatory instrumentation technique where you take a sample, a liquid, and then it vaporizes that liquid and it passes through something that we call a column, which is kind of like a slinky. So what happens is your sample will interact with that column, and once it interacts with that column, you obtain some data, and that's the data that we identify against.
May I approach this just
Yes, you may.
Ms. Cochran, you was been previously marked as State Exhibit number 2. Do you recognize that? Are there any unique identifying either markings or indicators on that item that enable you to identify it?
Yes,
Does it include an agency case number?
yes.
What is that agency case number?
It's 19-01672N.
Does it include a number that's assigned to it by the Jefferson County Crime Lab?
Yes.
And briefly explain how that number ordinarily gets assigned to an item once it's submitted.
So each piece of evidence that's entered into the laboratory gets a unique identification number. So when it's entered into the lab, you will give it a number, and that's the laboratory number that we.
In addition to the crime lab number and the agency number, is there a name of an individual associated or on that outside of that item?
Yes,
And who is that?
Rachel and Lily.
Okay. And did you have an opportunity to perform an analysis of the contents of that envelope?
Yes,
And which, did you utilize either the gas chromatography or the mass spectrometry in order to perform the analysis on that particular item?
yes,
Both or one of them?
both. The instrument is one instrument.
Okay. Were you able to obtain a result?
Yes.
Did you reduce that result down to writing or in the form of a report?
Yes,
And did that report contain the agency number or the crime lab number that you just referenced?
yes,
You bring a copy of that report with you today?
yes.
And what was the at this time I would offer State's Exhibit number 2.
Mr. Kimmer?
And for purposes of record, I'm changing to Mr. Kimmer
Okay.
for his inspection.
Well, first of all, object to film relevance because she hasn't stated what the results were, so what's the relevance? Secondly, I would object that it was obtained in violation of the defendant's right to be free from unreasonable searches and seizures in the state and federal constitution.
Yeah, if I may ask a couple of additional follow-up questions.
You may.
What were the results of your analysis?
Can I look at my report?
Please.
It was clonazepam.
And is clonazepam a controlled substance?
Yes,
Is it a prohibited substance under penalty group 3 of the Texas Controlled Substance Act?
yes,
Yeah, at this time I re-urge or re-offer State's Exhibit number 2.
I re-urge objection that it was obtained in violation of defendant's right to be free from unreasonable search and seizure and those state and federal protections. Additionally, object that insufficient credit has been laid to establish sufficient chain testing.
Objection overruled.
Is the Jefferson County Crime Lab, certified?
Yes,
What's the accreditation, agency?
AMAB, and it's also accredited by the Texas Forensic Science Commission.
And, I may have missed this earlier, but are you certified by the state?
Yes,
This particular specimen, was it examined? Well, when, just really briefly, when items are received, are they inspected to determine whether or not they appear, the packaging appears to be tampered with?
yes.
What, if anything, would happen if it appeared to have been tampered with?
We will have, it submitted back to the agency for them to resubmit it, or they'll be notified of any.
And was that the case with this particular item? Well, in other words, that's a poor question. Let me answer this one. Was there any indication that statement review number 2, when it was received by the lab, that it had been tampered with?
Evidence was sealed once it was received into the laboratory.
And when it's received, are there measures or steps taken to ensure the integrity until it is examined?
Yes,
And briefly, where are those steps?
so the evidence, once it's received into the laboratory and it's given its unique identification number, it's stored in a vault where it stay there until the scientist is able to do the analysis on it. This vault is located in a secure building and only laboratory personnel have access to it.
Any reason to believe that that process wasn't followed in this particular?
No.
In fact, was this specimen examined the very same day that it was received by the Crown Lab?
Yeah.
Is that usual or unusual?
Unusual.
And why was it expedited in such a fashion in this case?
We were called and requested, the previous scientist that did analysis on it is no longer employed at the laboratory. Therefore, it was requested that analysis be done. We were on it.
I'm sorry, no, go ahead.
I was just saying, it was requested that another scientist that is employed at the laboratory, with analysis.
That occurred on yesterday.
Yes,
The initial analysis that was it performed back in November of 2020, if you know what we call it?
I'm gonna object unless she has personal knowledge, looks like she's referring to notes.
Objection sustained.
I'll pass it over, sir.
Mr. Kimler, you may proceed.
How long have you done it for?
a little bit over 4 years.
Okay. She was there 3 years. So where did you retrieve, or how did you get State's Exhibit 2?
So, yesterday, the evidence was received in by our lab technician. Once the evidence was received, I was able to access that.
Was what, I'm sorry?
I was able to obtain the evidence and put it in my custody
Where did you get it from?
from the lab technician.
She gave it to you, or he gave it to you?
She did it.
Handed it to you?
Yes.
Who's that person? What's her name?
Rosalinda Flores.
You know where she got it from?
Kind of evidence.
You have to refresh your recollection.
So Corey Mendez brought it into the laboratory and she received it from him.
From who?
Corey
Mendoza.
Mendoza.
Well, you think she did, I guess. You didn't see Mendoza handed to
No,
her.
I did not.
You don't know where Mendoza been keeping it, huh?
No, I did not.
Wasn't at the lab, hadn't been at the lab, right?
No.
So back on when, October 30th of 2020, it was tested originally? What was it tested originally? States to? According to your notes, I know you don't have personal knowledge, but just according to your notes.
So according to the previous scientist worksheet, she performed analysis on October 29th, 2020.
Okay, who was that, the previous scientist?
Joanna Castaneda?
Castaneda. Did you know her?
Yes,
And just randomly, she's the one that got it, not you. right?
Well, I got the evidence yesterday.
One of the back in what was originally tested, it's just like randomly assigned, or how do y'all choose which ones to test?
Yes, so we currently have a backlog, so all the evidence that's in the vault, we just working for it.
And you just, when you finish one, you go get another one, somebody finishes one, they get one.
Correct.
It's not like you specialize in pills, and somebody else specializes in powders or something, right?
No.
When you opened up, State's Exhibit 2, what did you find?
When I opened it, it contained 3 round tablets and a lab bag containing other powder.
Okay, now, person,
Yes, you may.
this hasn't been opened, I guess. Did you seal it back up?
Yes.
Where are your initials on there?
8/9/22.
So it doesn't look like it's been opened since you put that seal on there, right?
Correct.
Can we open it up now?
Okay, Jeff.
Yes. Yes, you may open it.
Yeah.
You have a letter opener? Yeah, hold on a minute.
Let's see. Just however you want to do it. Or just be careful. There you go. It's like Christmas. Okay, what do we have inside? No,
So there is a Ziploc bag that the agency, wrote.
okay, so this, so this first bag here, that's from the agency that submitted it, right?
Correct.
What about the writings on there? Would the agency have written clonazepam and put the numbers and this other stuff on there?
Possibly, yes.
So how would the agency know it was clonazepam?
I'm not sure.
But you're sure that this is an agency bag and not a crime lab bag, Ms. Marshall?
Correct.
Can we open that one up? Well, let's see, so inside of that plastic bag, what do we,
So in this bag, we have 3 lab bags.
okay, those bags are from y'all's, from the lab, right? Lab bag, okay.
So it's 3 lab bags. This lab bag is from the behavioral scientist.
Let's see, your hand in the bag, the smell looks like the yellow powder. And how do you know this is from the?
May I go, Judge, so I can at least
Yeah,
get it up there and what's going on there?
So how do you know this was from the previous time?
I know the initials.
And that's her initials on there?
Yes.
So this would have been the one that she would have tested, right?
Yes.
And you didn't test this one?
No.
Okay. We've got 2 more bags?
Yes.
Can I see those? All right. And so in one bag, we've got, looks like 2 yellow, round yellow tablets.
Yes.
And then in another bag, we've got another crushed up powder. Right? And I'm guessing the one with the crushed up powder that has MC on it's the one you tested,
Yes.
correct? Now, before you crushed it up into a powder, I guess it looked like the ones in this bag. Okay. Now, did you, attempt a visual identification before you did the GSM mass spec on it?
Yes.
And what, did you have a reference manual to
Yes.
compare it to?
Yes.
What's the reference manual?
It's called the DIB, the drug presentation, a Bible, and you can look up tablets and capsules based off of its color, its imprint.
What edition, do you know?
Pardon?
What edition is it, do you know? We up to on the DIB?
I don't know.
But you were able to locate a visual depiction in the DIB that was consistent with the submitted sample that you had in front of you, is that right?
Yes.
Visually consistent?
Yeah.
Based upon the visual identification that you're able to make between the sample and the DIB, what did you form a preliminary conclusion what it was?
Yes.
And what was that?
Clonazepam.
And again, I guess your background is in forensic science, but do you have a familiarity, I guess, with pharmacological or pharmaceutical drugs?
No.
So you don't know what clonazepam is at all?
I do, but I'm not.
Well, I know you may not have expertise in it, but based upon your understanding, what is it?
Benzodiazepam.
Benzodiazepine.
It's a class, its drug class is benzodiazepam.
Benzodiazepine. And that would be similar to alprazolam, Valium, that family of pharmaceuticals, is that right?
Yes.
Lorazepam,
Yes.
I think Valium's diazepam, all the pain. And what are the effects that has on a person, do you know?
It lowers their central nervous depression.
It's an anti-anxiety
Yes.
depressant, perhaps we could say CNS depressant,
Yes.
central nervous system depressant. And again, I'm getting outside of your field, but just basically that's what it does, right?
Yes.
And so clonazepam, alprazolam, lorazepam, diazepam, those are all listed in penalty group 3 of the Texas Control System. Is that correct?
I believe so.
Well, that's what you tested up to, right?
Clonazepam, yes.
You're sure of that, right?
Yes.
Penalty group 3.
Yes.
I think that approved that, so you got to rely on penalty group 3, right? So based upon that preliminary supposition, what did you proceed to do? You crushed it up, ran it through the mass spec, and what resulted?
So on the mass spec results, I obtained clonazepam.
And you had a reference sample for that?
Yes.
And for the benefit of the jury, you get like spikes, like a graph that's consistent with the known graph of clonazepam.
Yes.
Maybe, in any case, it was consistent enough where you're satisfied testifying what it is, right? What about, do you ever get substances submitted that are like a green leafy substance?
Yes.
And what do you visually like when you look at that? What do you think about that? Possibly.
Currently, at the time of the lab, we do not visually microscopically identify grains in the material. We just analyze it with the
Why don't you do the visual? Why don't you do the visual identification of the green leafy substance?
well, because currently at the time, we aren't able to distinguish between marijuana and hemp, so we do not currently visually.
Why is it important to be able to distinguish between marijuana and hemp?
Because in the law currently, there is a percentage of THC that has to be obtained to differentiate between the two.
In order for what, one to be illegal and one to be legal, right?
Correct.
What's the percentage to be illegal?
0.03%.
So is it possible for something to have the odor that will be consistent with both the legal hemp and the illegal marijuana when it's burned?
I'm not sure.
Okay. But the sole differentiation between the legal substance and the illegal substance, between the hemp and the marijuana, is the percentage of the THC, is that right?
Yeah.
And the only way to determine that, I take it, is to run it through the mass spectrometer gas chromatograph, right?
There's other instrumentation techniques that can be done, but in this case, it would have to be quantified to determine the percentage.
And how do you do that?
I'm not sure because we currently don't do that.
So you don't run it through the GSM aspect, of the green leafy substance anymore?
Not if it's marijuana.
Okay. That's what.
Mr. Coleman?
Thank you. Cox, I asked you to refer to your report. What was the net weight of the Alana that was tested in this case?
0.13 grams.
Just to reiterate, when the item was received, it would have been a process in place had it appeared to have been tampered with or not sealed.
No. It was sealed when I received it.
Oh, that's the question, my question. And the agency, could the agency not have made a suspected or an initial determination based on the markings on the field? They were at least initially indicate to them what the substance could have been.
Yes,
And using some web-based system or even what's been referred to as the drug Bible, they could make that preliminary determination correct.
correct.
Which would probably indicate why the agency wrote clonazepam on the outside of the envelope.
Objection, leading.
Objection sustained.
Yes, thank you, Your Honor. I'll rephrase the question. The agency could make a preliminary determination.
Correct.
Based on the marking.
Correct.
Thank you. Passage.
No further.
Okay,
I'm not sure which there needs to be.
she may be excused, and Mr. Clem, okay. Ms. Cox, first of all, thank you for coming here today. You are excused. You can follow the bailiff, and you have a blessed day.
Can I have a moment, please?
Yes.
Around the state will rest at this time, Judge.
Okay. Mr. Kimler, let's do this here. At this time, ladies and gentlemen, we're gonna take a 5-minute break. Follow the bailiff. Mr. Kimler?
Ready?
Oh, yeah.
Your Honor.
Hold on. Let the record reflect that the jury is not present in the courtroom. Mr. Kimler and his client and the state district attorney, assistant district attorney is present. Mr. Kimler?
Your Honor, this time the defense moves for an instructed verdict of not guilty based upon the failure of the state to adduce both legally and factually sufficient evidence for the case to proceed to the jury.
Objection. Well, that'll be denied.
And Your Honor, again, we would urge our objection to suppress the clonazepam states exhibit 2 that was seized in this case and that it was a product of an illegal search. I think through the testimony, the further testimony of the lab forensic scientist, it's demonstrable that there was a lack of probable cause to proceed with the search of the vehicle, thus eviscerate any claim of the state that there's an exception to the warrant requirement for the search if they carry it out.
That'll be denied. It'll be overruled. Okay. This time we'll be in recess.